Alright everyone, so today I wanted to talk about all the different ways in order to get SR pendants in game, and I actually have a list here of 8 different ways in order to do so, so let's go ahead and get right to it. And a big shout out to Pampy Rack Trapona for leaving this as a comment on my last video with a great video suggestion. So let's head over to the Knighthood first, because the first 2 things on the list in order to get SR pendants are actually going to come from the Knighthood. So number 1, and this is going to be how you actually can get up to 7 SR pendants per week, is actually going to be from the Knighthood Shop here. And you'll have the option in order to buy 1 per day for the cost of 80 Knighthood coins each. So if you go to the actual shop here, they are going to be in the level 4 shop, and you'll see that price tag of 80. And if you're wondering if it's 1 per day or 1 per week, the Knighthood Shop does reset every single day, so you can buy up to a maximum of 7 of these per week. It does come at a price tag of 80 coins. You do also have the SSR one here for the price tag of 300 coins, and a lot of people ask the question, you know, is it worth it? Is it not worth it? And it really honestly just depends on what your priorities are in the game and what you're really looking for. I will say, though, that there's a lot of really useful stuff in the actual Knighthood Shop, so it can be difficult with the amount of Knighthood coins that we get in order to feel like we can really buy everything that we are looking for. But either way, that is how you can get 7 of them per week. And now the next method is actually going to be right next to it here, and that is going to be the Knighthood boss battles, and it's actually going to be from the personal points gauge right here. They actually very recently increased the rewards that you can end up getting from this, and it now goes up to 2,200 points instead of 1,200 points. Now, I know that there are at least 3 SR pendants in here, kind of towards the start of the actual points. I don't actually remember off the top of my head if they added more SR pendants recently, but I know at the very minimum there are 3, and there's also a lot of other really useful stuff for your account. You can see that you get an SSR pendant as the reward for 2,200 points. You also get another SSR pendant for your entire Knighthood participation, and there's a lot of other stuff here as well, like anvils, gold chests, and really useful stuff for your account. You can also end up getting the 2,200 points without even going into the extreme battle. You can see here that I haven't even done extreme yet, and I actually was able to get the over 2,200 points that you need for the rewards. I would still recommend trying to do it anyway, though, just in order to help your Knighthood out. But that's going to be 2 out of the 8 things that I have on the list just straight up come from the Knighthood. So now let's move on to the next thing on the list here, and that's going to be the one that I think a lot of people are pretty familiar with, and that's going to be the Fort Solgris eyeball dungeons. So let's head over to the actual eyeball dungeon here. Let's go to boss battles, and let's go to special dungeons, and of course it's going to be the one here at the top, the events one that's got the picture of the pendant. So you've got the reward gauge, which is for the SSR pendants, but if you take a look at the actual drop rates, you will see here that the silver box is the one that has the evolution pendant. The bad news is it is also shared with the SSR chest, so even though it's a 10% chance, you do have to split it among the treasure chest, but you do usually end up getting more than 1 chest per run. So you're probably looking like an average of, I would guess, you know, one of these SR pendants, you know, maybe every 8 to 10 to 12 runs or so, something like that. Maybe a little bit less often if you're lucky, a little bit more often if you're unlucky, but I would say, you know, to play it safe, you're probably looking at one of these like every 10 runs or so. You end up getting one of your dungeon keys refreshed every 8 hours. And also, a good recommendation to actually spend your friendship coins on is going to be those eyeball dungeon entries. That's what I usually spend them on, either that or PvP tickets, but that's another way to get an additional 3 entries per day. So if you go to friendship, you'll see here that they are 2,000 coins each, and this is a good thing to buy. Also the PvP tickets, and there's other good stuff here as well, but you can get a few additional entries to the eyeball dungeon besides just the ones that regenerate every 8 hours. So you're probably looking like, if you add that all together, maybe spend a few of your friendship coins on those eyeball tickets, you're probably looking at what my guess would be around 5 or so SR pendants coming from the Fort Solgris eyeball dungeon. So now let's move on to number 4. This is probably going to be one of the biggest ways in order to end up getting your SR pendants, but you know, there's question on whether this is worth it in the long term, and that is going back to the actual coin shop, buying the SR pendants with gold coins here. Now, they cost 1 gold coin each, and that seems like a very good deal. And I would say, like, if you're in a clutch and you really need to upgrade a unit, like you really want to do it and you're a few pendants short, absolutely worth it. Is it worth stocking up on these like crazy in the long term? Probably not, and the reason why I say that is because right now, everyone's really at a point where they're working on all their SR units, and it's taking a lot of pendants, but later on, there's just not really that many new SR units introduced in the game. So, you know, if you go crazy and buy 1 million of these pendants right now, then sure, you'll get everything leveled up and worked on now, which is fine. You know, take your own priority list and kind of work with it the way that you want. But later on in the game, you know, these pendants, you're going to be getting them, but because there's not a lot of new SR units added to the game, you're probably not going to be using them as much. So that's something to be mindful of, especially considering that gold coins, you know, you have to do summons to get them, well, and they're considered to be a pretty valuable resource. So you don't want to blow through 1 million of these without really thinking about it too much, but I definitely am not going so far as to say that it's not worth it. It absolutely is. Just be a bit careful maybe on the amount of gold coins that you spend on SR pendants. So generally speaking as well, I would lean towards, you know, buying the actual units, especially the ones that you're going to use when they go on sale. That's a great use of your gold coins as well. Now, I believe there is an option to buy them with silver coins for 10 each. I will say definitely not worth it. That is 10 stamina potions that you could buy instead. So, you know, 1 SR pendant versus 10 stamina potions, you know, you really have to ask yourself at that point, is it really worth it? And I think most people would probably agree that it is not worth that price tag. So that's a really big one right there. And now let's move on to the next couple on the list here, and the next couple unfortunately don't really have like a concrete number really attached to it. It's going to depend on when content is released, you know, what kind of events are going on, and so on and so forth. But one of them, of course, is just quite simply going to be clearing your story. Really important, especially to those of you guys who are newer to the game, who maybe haven't actually caught up to the actual story yet, and you really feel like you are overwhelmed with the amount of SR units that you want to work on. Make sure you catch up on your story, catch up on your villages, not just for SR pendants, but also you get a ton of rewards in many other ways as well. You can kind of scroll through here and see all the crazy rewards that you end up getting for working on all your different quest series. So that's going to be important, and that's going to give you not just SR pendants, but a lot of other really useful stuff for your accounts. Now, the next one is going to be events. And again, this is one of those things where, you know, it's going to depend on the actual event itself. Like right now, we have this roulette event, and it doesn't seem like this roulette event actually has SR pendants. But, you know, sometimes we will have events come out, and there will be a huge source of SR pendants available. I know there was an event where we could get something like 30 SR pendants from it, which is a lot. So definitely take advantage and keep an eye out for the events list. Anytime we have big news when it comes to events or new stuff coming to the game, I'll definitely try my best to let you guys know on the channel as soon as possible, but that is another great source for those SR pendants. And the next one is going to be your login rewards. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to the login rewards, there's two different types, and we have to make an important distinction between these two. So we've got this event login reward schedule right here. That's the one that you guys see right here. This one is not consistent. It's not going to be the same all the time. Once we actually cycle through these login rewards, then it's going to end, and maybe Netmarble will release another, you know, login event week schedule, or I guess this one is 2 weeks like we have. And these events are going to be different with different rewards, but right now we do have SR pendants in this actual, the event login rewards, and I would say a good amount of them do, but not all of them are. Keep an eye out for what the actual login event rewards are going to be, though. We also have a couple SSR pendants here as well. Now, this one is the consistent one, right? This is the one that every single week it's going to be the same. And once you actually collect the last reward here, the SSR ticket, it's going to cycle back around to the beginning. And unfortunately, this one does not have SR pendants. You know, maybe a suggestion to Netmarble, at least temporary, until, you know, people feel like they've gotten enough SR pendants to where they've been able to work on a lot of their SR units, but none in that one there. And then the very last thing that I wanted to mention, I wanted to leave it to the end of the video because this one's probably not going to apply to a lot of people. And I didn't include this in like the number of pendants that you can get each week because that's absolutely not fair. But it's something that is a newer addition to the game, and it's actually a specific shop offer that will actually show up. In fact, it's going to be this icon. I can't get that orange exclamation mark to disappear. I don't know if some people have found a way to do so, but unless you actually buy the pack, doesn't seem to disappear, which is kind of annoying on its own. Sorry for the little side distraction there, but one of these, not this one right here, but there is one that pops up, you know, every week or so that has 30 SR pendants. And I actually have an image here of what it looks like for you guys so you can see. I had it the other day, and if you are a spending player, $4 will get you 30 SR pendants and 3 eyeball dungeon entries. Which is pretty nice. Now, of course, if you're free to play, this doesn't apply at all. And when it comes to value, I would definitely say that for $4, this is a pretty darn good deal. But when I was talking about this with your gold coins, you know, you have to keep that same principle in mind, that it feels like we need a whole bunch of these right now, but later on, once we kind of worked on a lot of the SR units that we feel like we need to work on right now, because there's not a lot of them introduced, you know, you're not going to need as many of these. So it's nice for the time being, but be careful. Don't go too overboard. You don't need to stockpile SR pendants like absolute crazy, because eventually you're going to get everything done and you won't need as many of them anymore. But for the time being, it's definitely a good one for spending players. Anyway, I have shared a lot of information in this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed, and this video was useful for a lot of you. So if it was and you want more videos like this in the future, consider subscribing to the channel. Feel free to leave a quick like as well. It means more than you can imagine, so thank you so much to all of you who decide to do that. And more 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross Global videos should be popping up on the screen right about now. Feel free to check them out. But if not, until next time, take care everyone, and this Assault of the Salty Guild, signing out.